Okay, this is how to solve compound inequalities, part 2, or inequalities. So you don't need to write anything down to start, you just need to listen to this first part. I'm going to let you know when it's time to take notes or write anything down, so just pay close attention to what I do on the video. We're going to start off by giving you an example of an OR inequality. So we have x is greater than or equal to 4, or x is less than 0. We know this is an OR inequality because it is separated by the word OR, and we know it's a compound inequality because it is telling us two things about the same variable. 1, 2. The first thing is that x is greater than or equal to 4, and the second thing is that x is less than 0. Same variable, but two different things separated by the word OR, so we know we have a OR inequality. So first we're going to talk about how to graph an OR inequality. The first thing we need is a number line. There we go, number line. And we need to number our number line. -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so remember when we graph inequalities, we have to pay close attention to if we have greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, or less than. So here we have x is greater than or equal to 4. So we're going to go to 4 and draw a circle, and that we know this dot is going to be colored in because we have x is greater than or equal to 4. Colored in. If x is greater than or equal to 4, we want to draw a line to the right of 4, showing that x is greater than or equal to, since this dot is colored in, 4. And then we just need to draw an arrow at the end of our line to show that x can go on forever. Next, we need to go to 0. We see x is less than 0, so we need another dot, but we need this dot to not be colored in. That's an open dot, because x is less than 0. Now we need to color this one into the left, draw a line to the left to show that x can be any number less than 0. And we need to draw an arrow at the end of our line to show that that goes on forever. Here's the graph of x is greater than or equal to 4, or x is less than 0. Some characteristics to note about this graph are that it is two separate pieces. The two parts of the line are not touching. You have one part over here on the right, on the left, and then another part over here on the right, and they're not connected. They're completely touching, or they're completely separate. And a compound inequality that's an OR inequality is going to have two separate arrows going in different directions, but the lines are not connected. Okay? All right, so that's something to keep an eye out for the rest of the video. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what we do if we have to solve the inequality. So let's look at another example. Again, you don't need to write this down. This example is, we have 4v plus 3 is less than or equal to -5, or -2v plus 7 is less than 1. Okay? So this is two separate inequalities, again, telling us two different things about the same variable v. But because they're not connected in any way, we can go about solving them separately. So first, let's solve each of these inequalities by itself. I'm going to focus on the one to the left first. So first, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Remember, you solve an inequality just like you solve an equation. These 3's will cancel out, and leaving me 4v is less than or equal to -5 minus 3 is -8. Next, I will divide by 4 on both sides of the equation. The 4's will cancel, and I get v is less than or equal to -2. So that is the solution to the first inequality. The second one, I'm going to start by subtracting 7 from both sides of the inequality. Those 7's will cancel, and I get -2v is less than -6. Next, I'm going to divide by -2 on both sides. Divide by -2 on both sides, leaving me v. -6 divided by -2 is 3. But remember, we divided by -2, so we need to flip the inequality. We divided by a negative, so we flip it. Flip the inequality. So now we have a v is greater than 3, and we have v is less than or equal to -2, and we still need to separate them with the word or. So now we have solved both of these inequalities. We have one compound inequality separated by the word or. Great. Now we need to graph this inequality just like we did before. So again, we're going to start off with our number line. Number our number line. Start off at -2 this time. Sorry, we're going to start at -4. There we go. Okay, so we're going to first look at the graph this in yellow. First, look at v is less than or equal to -2, so it's less than or equal to, so we need a color in line at -2. And v is less than, so we want to go to the left, show all the numbers less than -2, and draw our arrow. And then we have v is greater than 3, so we're going to draw another open dot at 3. It's going to be open because it's greater than, not greater than or equal to. And then v is all numbers greater, so we draw our arrow going towards the right. Draw our little arrows at the end, showing those lines go on forever. And we are all done. This graph represents the solution set. V is less than or equal to -2, or v is greater than 3. Okay, now what I'm going to do is give you one more example. This example I'd like you to copy down in your notes, just like I did, and then I'm going to give you some time to solve the inequality. Then I'll solve it, and you can check your work. And then I'll give you time to graph the inequality, and then I'll graph it, and you can check your work. So the inequality that you are going to be working with is 3b minus 1 is less than -7, or 4b plus 1 is greater than or equal to 9. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to solve each of these inequalities separately. So go ahead, you have 2 minutes. Okay, let's see how you did. So if you're still working, work along with me. If you're done, please check your work with what I'm going to do. So first I'm going to solve the inequality on the left by adding 1 to each side of the inequality. Those ones will cancel out, and I get 3b is less than -6. I'm then going to divide both sides by 3 to get b is less than -2. -2. Now, for the inequality on the right, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides of the inequality to begin. Those ones will cancel. Go. I get 4b is greater than or equal to 8. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Those 4's will cancel, and I get b is greater than or equal to 2. And remember to throw your or back in there. You want to separate your inequalities with an or. So this is the solution. B is less than -2, or B is greater than or equal to +2. Next, you need to graph this inequality. So in your notebooks, please draw a number line that you need to label with an appropriate scale and graph this inequality. I'm going to give you 40 seconds to do that. Go ahead. Okay, first off, we need to label our number line. So I'm going to start at -3. You could have started at something different, though. Just remember you need to go up by a constant scale each time. Oh, there we go. I'm going to graph in turquoisey. So first I'm going to do the inequality on the left. So I'm going to go to -2 and draw an open dot because we have b is less than -2. And then draw our arrow off to the left to indicate b is all numbers less than -2. Now for the inequality on the right, I'm going to go to +2 and draw a colored in dot because b is greater than or equal to 2. And then draw an arrow off to the right to show that b is greater than or equal to all numbers greater than or equal to 2. Okay? Is that what yours look like? Hopefully. Okay, so there are a few important things to remember. So I'm going to write down some key things to remember. Please make sure you have these written in your notes. Important facts. The first one is or inequalities or inequalities will always look like this. Always going to look like this. You're going to have one dot and an arrow pointing to the left, and then another dot and an arrow pointing to the right. So you have two separate arrows, and there's a space in between where they're not connected. Okay, this other thing is always remember to flip the sign when you divide by a negative number. So if you remember these two key important facts, it'll help you when you're solving compound or inequalities. After you've finished copying these two facts down into your notes, please raise your hand and let me know that you're finished with the video and ready to work on the practice sheet. Remember to really focus on this practice sheet and try your best, because the point of today is to become a master in this skill, to become a master in solving OR inequalities, so that tomorrow you can teach your partner all about them. I hope you liked the first video.